Hey, and welcome back to Vita versus 3DS. In this video, I just wanted to talk about the standard pricing of retail games on PSN and on the eShop, as well as in retail. And if this ends up coming off as a bit of a rant, it's because it kind of is. But anyway, just like a brief history about handheld games. Basically, I've been a handheld gamer for a long time. Prices for handheld games have always traditionally been a little bit lower than for console titles, and this has been true for the Game Boy, the Game Boy Advance, the Nintendo DS, and so on in this generation. And this is relevant because it's always been that way because handheld games have always been cheaper to make. Haven't had the high specs that consoles have, and haven't they don't need to have the large teams that consoles have. So they've always been a little bit cheaper, and this has instilled in the consumer this sort of attitude that they can never be the same price. Retail games and console games and handheld games can never be the same price. But now, as we're seeing, especially with the Vita and 3DS, we're seeing console titles like Resident Evil Revelations, console-like titles like Resident Evil Revelations and Uncharted Golden Abyss, which cost a lot. Like they're very comparable to how much console titles cost. So they've had price points and everything coming up to like $50. Or I know Resident Evil Revelations Capcom wanted to charge 50 for it, and it was a huge backlash and everything. But anyway, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to talk about in the advent of PSN and the eShop for online pricing, what that means for us and what we should expect and what Nintendo and Sony have been delivering. This is in the retail package. Like I'm going to use Mario Kart here, for example. In the retail package of this, what's included is the plastic of the box. So the whole plastic thing, which is nice hard and it's well made and everything and clips open. The front and back cover, which is all one piece, but you have to print these out in really high glossy paper, and everything has to be done really, really well. The manual, this game doesn't have a manual, but it has a whole bunch of papers inside and everything. These have to be printed, and it's not cheap to ship these out for millions of units. The game cart. This is a 4 GB game cart. That's not cheap to actually make millions and millions of these. It costs millions of dollars. The game cart, the cost of packaging it all together, the cost of shipping it, and the cost of the middleman, which is probably the biggest cost. You have to pay GameStop or Best Buy. You have to give them a decent cut. I have a friend in retail right now, and he's not an expert, but he gave me something like they make off a new game sale. Maybe they make like $8 or something like that. $8 is significant it's a significant amount of $40. So overall, like Nintendo and Sony and third parties, they're losing quite a bit of money on every retail game they lose. They're not losing money, but they're just not making it as much. You have to spend money to make money, basically. Same thing with the Vita. Though these boxes are a little bit smaller, Vita games rarely include anything. There's almost always no manual here. And the carts are a little bit smaller to make, but they're the same thing. They're 4 GB. They're pretty much the same. But it still costs a lot of money to ship these, to make millions of these boxes, to make the game carts, to include manuals or even that little slip of paper that has the online pass or whatever. These things cost money. It costs millions of dollars to ship games. So this is why, if they charge $40 for these games and they still make money off of it, it shows that that's the right price point. So if you're going to sell your game online on PSN or on the eShop, you're cutting out all of those costs. You're cutting out, the manual cost, the front and back covers of the cost, the game cart, the packaging, the box, the shipping, and most importantly, you're cutting out the middleman. The only cost you're paying to put your game up on the eShop or put your game up on PSN the only real cost that Nintendo and Sony have to pay for their games is the cost of upkeep, the cost of maintenance, the server fees, things like that. And those come up to pennies per title, especially when the titles start growing and you start getting tons of titles up there. It comes to pennies. It's nothing, especially compared to the millions and millions of dollars it costs to ship a game. So, and that's the same for virtually all publishers. Maybe it's a little more expensive for third parties because they have to give Sony a little bit of a cut, but that's nothing compared to the fact that they still have to give Sony and Nintendo a little bit of a cut anyway when they sell in retail games, and they have to pay the middleman. They have to pay for some of that. So my question is, why the hell are the majority of 3DS and Vita titles on PSN and eShop $40? Why are they still $40? Why is Mario Kart $40? in retail. Why I paid $40 for this and it's still $40 in stores. And yet if I were to go online where they don't have to pay for any, Nintendo doesn't have to pay for any shipping, any packaging, they don't have to pay to print the box or make the box or print the any of the manuals or make the game card or pay the middleman, why is it the same price? If they can make money off this for $40, why can't the online version be $30? Technically, you don't even own the online version, you just own the license to play it. So I can't sell it, I can't do anything. Same thing with virtually every third-party title on the Vita. Persona 4 Golden. I paid $40 for this game. It's a great game. It's easily worth $40. But why is it $40 on PSN as well? I don't technically own it if it's on PSN. I can't sell it. I just own the license to play it. Atlas and Sony, they didn't have to make any boxes. They didn't have to make any carts. They didn't have to print any manuals or covers or anything or pay the middleman. They're making way more profit off the online version than off this version. So why can't they share some of that with us? They'd still make more even if they charge $35 for it. Now, I have to give a little bit of credit where it's due to Sony because in terms of their specific titles, like Uncharted, Wipeout, MLB, like, you know, virtually all the titles they themselves put up, they recognize basically the complaint that I'm bringing up here, and they charge $5 less than the standard retail price for their games. And $5 may not seem like a lot, and it isn't. I think it should be more, but it does add up. If I bought, let's say, 10 Sony-made Vita games online, charging $5 less, that's $50 in my pocket. I can go buy another game. It's significant. And it just shows that at least Sony, maybe it's not a huge sign of good faith or something like that. Maybe it's a sign of the backlash of consumers like me who are speaking up against this. But anyway, it shows that they're being a little bit responsive. Nintendo has not done this at all. And I'm a little discouraged because, let's say, a game like Star Fox, for example, I don't want to buy the retail version of Star Fox. That's an N64 game. I really don't want to play that again on my 3DS. I don't want to pay $40 for it. I don't want to have my game card slot in the 3DS taken up by an N64 game. But I do kind of want to play it. I looked at it on the eShop. I said, hey, you know, if it's nice and cheap on the eShop, why don't I pick it up? But it's $40. And that's kind of ridiculous. I just don't see how Nintendo can get away with doing that. And I don't see how third parties, virtually every third party except for Ubisoft on the Vita, has been doing that as well. They've been charging $40 for it. And basically, they'll continue to do it as long as we continue to buy them. So yeah, anyway, so with regards to the state of the 3DS and Vita now, I'm not happy with what Sony has been doing. I'm not happy with the $5 discount, but I'm happy that they even did it in the first place because Nintendo is refusing to. It's a good first step, and as much as some of us may not like it, I don't like it. As you can see, I do here. I have retail games. I like the physicalness of having this in my hands, but unfortunately, we all have to acknowledge that digital downloads are the future. This is the future of gaming. This is what gaming will become, and we can't continue to accept $40 digital versions of games when we should know. Like, the informed consumer knows that it doesn't it costs them so much less, and if they can make a profit off $40 boxed retail games, it shouldn't be $40 on PSN when they're saving millions of dollars on shipping and packaging and everything. So anyway, yeah, just to conclude, us as gamers, we should expect more, especially in the advent of the digital future and where it's going, and we should demand more. They still have a long way to go. I really hope Sony gets it together and starts forcing the third parties on the Vita to really bring down their price by $5 online, and I hope that they show them that, because, you know, consistently all the top selling titles are usually Sony titles, and they're usually $5 less. So they should show them, like, hey, if you cut by $5, you can increase your profits. Nintendo, I don't expect them to do anything. They never do. They're charging, you know, $40 for the games that came out last year even, and that's a whole other issue. But anyway, I'd be pleasantly surprised if they do to be a little bit more progressive and you know, you know, just give us a little bit of a discount online, because, you know, we're losing a lot by buying online, and they're gaining a lot. So at least give us something. Anyway, so that's my rant. Maybe I'll do a few more. I definitely have a few gripes here and there with these systems and Nintendo and Sony. So whenever I do, I certainly try to share them. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Bye.